We tampered with the stability of space-time to resurrect countless lives. Do you want to do it again now just because yours got messy?
5 minutes later.
Spider-Man.
Welcome back to Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. Doctor Strange is a pragmatist. He handles his problems with logic and objectivity. This is why Stephen was determined to send the multiversal trespassers back to their universes, even if that meant that they would all die. And that's because their existence threatened reality, while Spider-Man was willing to put the world at risk just to give those villains a second chance. But they were only in this mess for one reason, because Dr. Stephen Strange decided to cast a memory spell. And it was meant to be simple and harmless, but it all went wrong.
I really should put the warnings before the spell.
Reality was almost destroyed, all because Stephen decided to flex his magical muscles. But Stephen's wrongdoings in No Way Home go far beyond his botched spell. He made so many bad calls, choices that not only put reality at risk, but also raise some moral questions about power and the consequences of misusing it.
Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished.
Let's begin with Doctor Strange's main misdeed in No Way Home, the memory spell. Now, to be fair, Peter Parker holds a lot of responsibility here. He was the one who asked Stephen for his help. Peter actually wanted Stephen to use the Time Stone to rewrite history, but Stephen was the one that suggested the memory. He could have just said, "Sorry kid," and sent Peter on his way. But instead, he decided to brainwash the whole world just to help out Peter Parker.
You f***ing asshole! This is all your fault!
It was his idea, so he is the main culprit. Peter is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He has no idea how magic spells work or the implications of the runes of Call. Stephen is the expert. He knows firsthand that there are consequences to spells. And, as Wong said, I'm no magic expert, but this spell sounds pretty dangerous. And for anyone who says that Strange should have just erased the world's memory of Mysterio framing and revealing Peter's identity, that's still wrong.
Two wrongs don't make a right, Bart.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Dad!
Two wrongs make a right, Lisa.
We're still talking about a spell that will affect billions. It won't just erase their memories, it will rewrite them into something else, something untrue.
All those memories just erased! Sitting in this room collecting dust! What's the point of going on if most of everything that happens just ends up sitting in here?
The world knew about Spider-Man's identity for weeks, so what happens to that span of time? Strange claims it's a simple spell for forgetting, but there's clearly a lot more to it. It's basically the same as rewriting reality.
Unethical, dangerous. This is wrong.
Now what's ironic is that when Peter asked Stephen Strange to use the Time Stone, Stephen proves how insanely stupid that request is.
We tampered with the stability of space-time to resurrect countless lives. Do you want to do it again now just because yours got messy?
Yet, 5 seconds later, Strange is just fine with rewriting the memories of countless people without their consent.
I feel so violated.
This spell is also an extreme violation of privacy and free will. And this isn't even the first time Strange can't know what happened at the full moon party at Carmartage, but I highly doubt that it warranted a memory wipe. It's a careless misuse of power. You gotta wonder about the moral and ethical implications here. If sorcerers can just cast such a spell at any time they want, choosing to erase people's memories whenever it suits them, that's pretty much playing God. And if Strange is willing to wipe the world's memory for Peter, then where's the line?
Gods don't have to choose. We take.
I mean, Strange literally found an all-in-one solution for any time he or the other heroes mess up. Instead of facing the consequences for their mistakes, Strange can just wave his hands and poof, everyone forgets. It's actually terrifying. People should be able to trust these heroes to do the right thing. But both Strange and Spider-Man prove that they will do the very wrong and selfish thing if it serves them. And Doctor Strange holds more power than most heroes, since even something as seemingly harmless as a spell can tear reality apart. And what's insane here is that there is no one to enforce such spells, because the very people who should be enforcing the use of spells are the same people who are using them.
We need to be put in check. If we can't accept limitations, we're boundaryless, we're no better than the bad guys.
And look, it's nice and all that Stephen is willing to move heaven and earth just to help out Pete, but maybe tone it down a little. I'm sure there's a spell that would have allowed Strange to expose Quentin Beck's lies, like some remembrance spell or a way to review memories like in Harry Potter or something. The way Strange handled Peter's situation proves that superheroes live in ivory towers. When a normal person is framed or wrongfully convicted, that person is basically screwed, because changing the ruling of the court is almost impossible. And changing the public's opinion is essentially hopeless, especially in today's day and age.
Peter, you may have dodged your legal troubles, but things will get much worse. There is still a court of public opinion.
But in Spider-Man's case, Steven didn't even need any spells to help Peter. If Doctor Strange and the other popular Avengers came to Spider-Man's defense, then the public's opinion would have changed dramatically.
They love me.
Because these are the heroes that the world trusts, and if they support Spider-Man, then suddenly people start having doubts about Mysterio's story. Ironically, Mysterio said it best.
Unless you're flying around with a cape or shooting lasers from your hands, no one will even listen.
Sure, everyone will still know that Peter's Spider-Man, but the real reason that MIT rejected him, MJ, and Ned wasn't because he's Spider-Man, but because he's a controversial superhero suspected of murder. In fact, if Peter was proven innocent, then MIT and other colleges would have fought over the prestige of having a superhero as their student.
You're a hero. I'm going to talk to admissions about your friends, and I'm going to talk to them about you.
Sure, Peter should have thought of all this himself, but he was pretty desperate, and his IQ levels tend to plummet whenever he's under pressure.
That you didn't even think to plead your case with them first before you asked me to brainwash the entire world?
Strange is supposed to be the responsible adult, the logical rationalist. He applied his objectivity when he argued that the villains must be sent back to their universes because their presence put reality at risk. Him being a cool-headed pragmatist is the only effective way to handle those high stakes. That's what made him such a skillful surgeon, because he was able to keep his calm in extreme situations. So where did all that objectivity go all of a sudden?
Sucking up your IQ, vacuuming the cortex, feeding off your brain.
And you know what I suspect? Steven didn't want to perform the spell for Peter's sake. I mean, yes, that was part of the reason, but there was a subconscious motive. Steven is back to being an arrogant jerk, the same one that he was as a surgeon, and he just wanted to prove that he could perform that spell. It's just about bragging rights, another worthless trophy for him. And let's not forget that Steven's arrogance is his biggest flaw.
It's precisely what kept you from greatness. Arrogance and fear still keep you from learning the simplest and most significant lesson of all.
After saving the universe, Steven got a little too high on his success and power, and that made him smug, which led to him being irresponsible and negligent. That's why he cast the spell with so little care for the consequences. And we all know just how careless Doctor Strange can be with magic, and how easy it is to destroy an entire universe with such arrogance and negligence. Now, ethical implications aside, there is also Steven's terrible communication skills, judging by Peter's reaction here through any of the details about this memory rewriting spell. I mean, before performing a spell that erases the world's memory, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea to go over the details a little bit. Spider-Man was all over the news. Everyone knew about him and his identity.
I am the most famous person in the entire world.
Everyone also knew about MJ, Ned, May, and Happy, and I'm pretty sure that Steven was aware of all that. And even if he didn't know about Peter's friends, it's kind of insane that he wouldn't ask Peter if he wanted to exclude anyone from the spell. I mean, it's just common courtesy to ask. You're literally about to cast a spell that will erase Spider-Man's identity from the world. That's a really big deal. This entire multiversal crisis could have been easily averted if Steven simply cared to ask.
I'm an inconsiderate prick!
What's more important is that Strange became distracted because Peter kept adding more people to be excluded from the memory. This caused the spell to become unstable, and it's what eventually led to the spell going wrong.
You changed my spell. You don't do that. I told you.
That spell was completely out of control. If I hadn't shut it down, something catastrophic could have happened.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Steven needed to stop performing the spell the moment it got unstable. This once again proves how negligent Strange was with the spell, as he risked billions of lives. What if he failed to contain that spell? Reality could have ended right there and then. What would have happened if the consequences to the butchered spell were irreversible? Or think about a much scarier scenario. Imagine if the spell would have erased the entire world's memory completely, turning people's minds into blank slates with no memory of who they even are, just like the world later forgets about the existence of Peter. This spell could have gone horribly wrong in so many ways. Strange gambled with the lives of billions, putting reality at risk, without ever stopping to think about the implications of his actions.
You still think there will be no consequences, Strange? No price to pay?
Now, while Doctor Strange was wrong, he was right on a few things, mainly his reasoning for sending the villains back to their realities.
In the grand calculus of the multiverse, their sacrifice means infinitely more than their lives.
Now, we're not going to get into that whole entire ethical debate since we already went over it in this video where Spider-Man was wrong. But Steven was in the wrong for giving Peter the task of locating the villains. These villains are multiversal trespassers, and their existence puts all of reality at risk. So why the hell would he outsource such an important job to Peter? Peter has already proven that with great responsibility comes great stupidity, so he can't be trusted with such an important job. And it's not like Peter knows any of these villains, so he doesn't have any special advantage in capturing them.
Peter, it's me, Flint Marco.
You remember?
I'm Peter, but I'm not your Peter.
What do you mean you're not my Peter?
Steven decided to allow Peter to bring MJ and Ned into this mess, and then he entrusted the fate of reality to 3 teenagers. 3 teenagers who are simply not equipped to deal with the reality-ending event. It seems like Steven involved Peter in this less because he needed his help, and more like out of spite, almost like he wanted to punish Peter for getting them into this mess.
You're telling us what to do, even though it was your spell that got screwed up, meaning that all this is kind of your mess.
But let's not forget, it was Strange who suggested the spell to begin with. So not only is Steven irresponsible, but he risked reality because he was holding a grudge. Why did he involve 3 teenagers instead of, I don't know, calling on the army of sorcerers at his disposal? Maybe he was ashamed that he screwed up and he didn't want to get caught.
You must be so embarrassed!
Honestly, it seems like all of the important lessons that Steven learned in his movie have been forgotten, and he just sort of regressed back to the person that he was before the accident. Well, okay, look, the real reason Doctor Strange needed Peter's help is because it's a Spider-Man movie, so I guess it's really more of a script problem. And as someone who loves 2016's Doctor Strange, this kind of pains me to see how they did this to my boy. Strange might not be the Sorcerer Supreme anymore, but it's still his responsibility to protect reality. And I gotta rant about that for a moment. Why is Strange not the Sorcerer Supreme anymore? Yes, I get that Wong did the job when Strange was dusted, but it's been a few weeks or like months since everybody came back. The Ancient One chose Strange to be Sorcerer Supreme, not Wong, and she chose Steven for a reason. Anyway, you mean to tell me that a powerful wizard like Steven couldn't round up the villains all by himself? I mean, this guy fought Thanos, he beat Dormammu. No offense to any of these villains, but none of them is a match for the Master of the Mystic Arts. Or maybe they are, since Strange had such difficulty capturing the lizard, who is the lamest of the bunch.
Where I found that slimy green son of a gun.
Now, later in the film, Strange and Spider-Man get into conflict about the morality of sending the villains back to die. This leads to a fight where Spider-Man beats Strange and traps him in the Grand Canyon. This is an unbelievable humiliation. A teenager with no magical abilities beat the Master of the Mystic Arts in the Mirror Dimension.
The Mirror Dimension, where I'm in control.
5 minutes later.
Math!
All of reality was at stake, and Steven was messing around. He wasted too much time trying to reason with Peter, attempting to explain the severity of the situation to a kid who was literally too thick to get this. And then Peter was running around with that magical cube and the villains for hours, putting the universe at risk, while Steven was just hanging out.
I've been dangling over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours.
I know.
What if something went wrong and the spell was unleashed sooner? All of reality could have ended while Steven was not there. And you know who could have helped Steven solve this mess? The Sorcerer Supreme. Where is Wong? Is he even aware that there's a threat to reality that's being faced? Did Steven let him know about any of this? Or is he so arrogant that he kept the crisis from Wong? There is a world-ending event that we're talking about here. It should have been all hands on deck. Steven needed to call all the masters of the mystic arts. I mean, what's more important than preventing the fabric of reality from being torn apart? But why didn't he? Because he's pissed that he got passed over for Sorcerer Supreme.
Wait, I thought you were the Sorcerer Supreme.
No, he got it on a technicality because I blipped for 5 years.
Oh.
No wonder all of reality is at risk with these two in charge of protecting it. Finally, there's strange failings in the end of the movie. When the magic box explodes, the spell is unleashed, tearing reality apart. Now, Strange manages to contain it, but just barely. The world is about to end, and Steven has no idea how to stop it.
They're starting to come through and I can't stop them.
There's gotta be something we could do. Can't you just cast the spell again? But the original way, before I screwed it up.
We're too late for that. They're here.
It's Peter who solves the crisis, offering to erase the memory of his entire existence to save reality.
They're coming here because of me, right? Because I'm Peter Parker? So cast a new spell. But this time make everyone forget who Peter Parker is.
Steven, on the other hand, just kept blaming Peter for the botched spell.
They're here because of you.
Even when the universe was about to end. He never took responsibility for his role in this crisis. He blamed it all on Peter, despite the fact that it was his idea to perform the memory spell. It says a lot that Steven never reached the cathartic realization that his irresponsibility and arrogance is the reason why they're in this mess. It shows that he didn't learn his lesson and that he's likely to do something as dumb as this in the future. And when Peter was ready to sacrifice himself, suddenly Steven got all touchy-feely about it.
Gonna cry?
No.
I guess it's a good sign that as a superhero, Strange has empathy, but come on. All of reality is about to end. There is no time to waste at this point. Steven screwed the pooch completely in the end. All of Strange's mistakes in the movie prove who was really right, and that's Mordo. He saw this coming.
You still think there will be no consequences, Strange? No price to pay. The bill comes due. Always.
Now, back then, Mordo was in the wrong because Stephen's use of the Time Stone saved reality from Dormammu. But he had a point in his speech. There are always consequences. Strange forgot that, or he simply became too arrogant to care about those consequences. And, based on what I've seen of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, those consequences are finally catching up with Stephen.
I'm really sorry to bother you, sir.
We're beyond you calling me sir.
Stephen, listen, I am so sorry.
Call me sir.
Thank you, sir.
Call me Stephen.
I am so confused right now.
And that is why Doctor Strange was wrong and No Way Home. But what do you think of all this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, guys, please subscribe, make sure you smash the bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.